Hey everybody, and thanks for joining us at VS Realm to learn how to Shoutcast! Thank you all for joining us. I'm Andrew Greenberg. I'm the chair of the Cab Entertainment Commission. I'm also the interim commissioner of the Georgia Esports League. We've done several esports tournaments already, and thankfully we've had some very good shoutcasters. We're also the only organization that I know of in the world that gives scholarships for shoutcasting. And to my right is one of the winners of those scholarships. Introduce yourself.
My name is Casey Luria. I go to Kennesaw State University, and I'm a game design major.
And on my left,
I'm CW. I run Epic Gaming Party and the Level Up Creator Space, which is for a nonprofit studio for live streamers and YouTubers.
Actually a location for shoutcasters to come ply their trade.
Absolutely.
So I was going to show you this quick trailer from the Georgia Esports League. It's 2 minutes of video. It's gameplay interspersed with some shoutcasting. And they're very different styles of shoutcasting we'll talk about. So let's go ahead and roll this. I assume we're going to get volume. I actually don't think I tested that. Oh. Yeah, no volume. Let's see if we can fix that really quickly. It might be my fault, actually. No, it's still not coming out of there. That would be good.
Go. Probably just have to add an audio source, maybe.
Well, I wasn't going through OBS. I was just doing it for YouTube.
Oh, that.
So I was expecting the HDMI to give me volume, but it's not.
Yeah,
so, is that volume not on that one? You were getting volume on that.
I was monitoring out through OBS.
All right. Well, here, maybe you can hear it just straight up through my computer. Go ahead and.
I think it's muted right there.
Let's unmute and do it. All right. So we'll play it again, and maybe you can hear it through my volume. Now, no one's going to be able to hear that, can you? Well, that's going to have not exactly shouting when you hear it.
3, 2, 1, roll!
So that's Bob Carter, a noted voice actor in the area. Wow, you can't even hear Photo talking over there at all.
That tightness going down.
There's Casey, and none of you can hear his excitement as the Titan goes down, can you?
Like GSU are the Smite champions. All right, here we go.
And GSU, yes, GSU was the Smite champion.
Con and Ash already on the point. Ruckus up top of them. Yeah, welcome.
So you see a variety of shoutcasters already in here.
Championship at MomoCon.
But I don't think you're hearing any of this, are you?
Schools here today. Kennesaw State University. Savannah College of Art Design, Atlanta, University of Georgia, Georgia State University.
Ladies and gentlemen, fans of esports, make some noise in the audience. Let them know on the other side of the world what's happening here. Now, who's ready to see Brawl? Who's ready to see Brawl Holla?
Hello, everybody. We're going to do our first ever voice ball.
This was some very interesting shoutcasting on the fly. We were the first people to ever shoutcast voice ball. Which sounds like it should have happened earlier.
Yellow up high.
It's an example of not knowing prep. Yellow wins. I don't know a name. Yellow.
They are your Brawl Holla champions.
I remember that shot.
GSU are the Smite champions. I'll say one thing. It's nice to see, a one-sided victory. KSU is trying their best, but can't get out to show for it. Get there as quickly as possible, and that's game. Wow, what a match! What a
All right.
match.
So a few different styles of shoutcasting there. So who here has done any shoutcasting whatsoever?
Let's start another one.
Yeah. Whoops. Let's get rid of the Starbucks
Brought to you by
logo.
Starbucks.
Yeah, not. Okay, so who here has done any shoutcasting? Oh my, excellent. Well, good bunch of folks to talk about. What games would you like to shoutcast? How many people would like to shoutcast League of Legends? Yay, this one. Smite, Paladins, Brawlhalla, Overwatch, yeah, Smash Brothers, Fortnite, PUBG. What other games am I missing? Hearthstone!
Oh.
What's Hearthstone?
Yeah, obviously you could have done it for Pong and everything else, which really applied for Shoutcast.
Chess.
Shoutcasting chess.
It's actually got a pretty big following on Twitch.
Great. Poker. We have poker shoutcaster
Yeah.
equivalents now. So what is shoutcasting as opposed to broadcasting? Any of you want to answer that?
He has the technical experience.
Most of my experience with shoutcasters is from the director's standpoint. So I'm the one behind the curtain with the headset, like signaling the shoutcaster if I need certain things on camera at certain times. When you're a broadcaster, if you're sitting there like streaming a game, you're playing the game, you're doing your own commentary, and as a live streamer, your focus should be more on your commentary than your gameplay. You're not trying to do professional gameplay. You watch a live streamer like Shroud; he's an amazing gamer, but his commentary is lower because of it. People are watching for his gameplay. Most of us live streamers, they're watching for us being the personality. So when you're talking about esports, these guys got to focus on their game. There's money on the line sometimes, or scholarships, there's trophies. So these guys do not need to be even thinking about trying to do banter and jokes with one another while they're up there playing. So that's where the shoutcaster comes in, because otherwise you'd have a very quiet stream. The shoutcaster provides that personality, provides that banter, and also, and this goes along with what we were talking about with comparing shoutcasting and esports with other sports like football, baseball. The beautiful thing about an NFL broadcast, you don't have to be a football expert to follow an NFL broadcast, because you got your play-by-play commentator and your color commentator explaining the game to you as you watch it to help you follow along. With esports, I mean, if someone tuned into a Brawlhalla game or tuned into Smite, if you never played those games, you have no idea what's going on. There's just a lot of movement on the screen. Even if you're a gamer, it's going to take a while to catch up. Those guys with the microphones are going to fill you in from the second you tune in. You're going to know what's going on because they're going to tell you very, very directly, and that's their job. So, it entertains, it informs, and it makes it just a lot funner to watch people sitting there playing a game like this in complete silence. Because otherwise, no one would watch that. No one would watch that except hardcore fans of the game that are following along because they know it.
And there's some significant differences between shoutcasting and traditional broadcast. In traditional broadcast, there is no audience interactivity. It is just being directed on out. You have generally a shot of an entire field. The fans can look at the entire game happening, which you can't do in most esports competitions. And in addition, in most sports, and really in all sports, there are breaks in the action pretty regularly, which give folks time to catch up, slow periods when the broadcaster has to step on in, and ways to direct the action. In most competitive gaming, in most games period, the action is nonstop. In a multiplayer game, there's no pause. Maybe you have 3 rounds of the game, but while that round is happening, there's nonstop action. There's none of this football stuff. Take the ball, stop the ball, take 30 seconds for everyone to reset, another 5 seconds of action, another 30 seconds of no action, and so forth. And the shoutcaster has to be able to help direct the audience nonstop. And I think this is the main reason for the term shoutcaster. You have to direct the audience at all times because there is so much happening all over the place. It is very difficult for anyone who's not really head down in the game to know what the important moments are going on, which players to follow, when, where the strategies are moving, and so forth. And that's why I think the shoutcasting comes in, because look at that! Oh, I didn't know something was happening there. All these other things going on. So a lot of differences between traditional shoutcasting and traditional broadcasting, but there are some similarities. So what is the play-by-play caster, the main play caster? What do they do? What's their role?
I would say that a play-by-play caster and a shoutcaster are roughly the same thing. So basically, there's someone who has great game knowledge, but is probably like the main personality. So, it's like you said, someone who's shouting like, "Oh, wow, this is amazing!" Getting the audience hyped up, letting them know what's happening. And I think it's an important role because some people, they might not understand. Like when I first started playing League of Legends or watching League of Legends, a lot of times I didn't know like why players would do something. I would just watch and I'd say, why did they do that? That seems dumb, but it worked out, I guess. And then the shoutcaster, with their game knowledge and their personality, they start explaining it, and they're saying like, okay, well, they did it because they wanted to get priority here, or they wanted to take the fight to them because they knew they had a numbers advantage, or something relative to the game knowledge that I guess would explain it to someone like me who didn't know at the time, and actually helps inform their players and actually makes their viewers better players.
So then let's talk about the color commentator. So you got the play-by-play main shoutcaster. What's the color commentator do?
Well, the color commentator, it's a throwback to professional sports broadcasting. Is you'd have the play-by-play guy, and then the color commentator, particularly like in football, when you have that 30-second reset every 5 seconds of action, they're the one analyzing. That's where your instant replays come in, and they go into like this extreme detail, explaining every little step, and they're doing it, to keep things interesting and explain the game, but also to keep people entertained, because otherwise you just got silence. It's a little trickier in esports broadcasting because there's fewer breaks, fewer pauses. So when you have two casters up there, the color commentator, they're doing the same thing. They're going more in depth. They're analyzing strategy. They're talking about the why than less what's happening, but why it's happening. And so, of course, the two, they play off of each other. Play-by-play says what's happening, and then the color commentator will be like, oh, that's really interesting. I see what they're going for here. They're getting ready to set up that bottom lane for the gank coming up. That's the kind of back and forth they get. And one of the real challenges there for for both casters is the fact that color commentator could be 2 seconds into explaining why something's happening, and then top lane gets rushed, and suddenly you got to stop talking because now the play-by-play guy is all the attention's up on top lane. Just everything's got to shift really, really quickly.
So one of the big secrets
challenge.
is how not to talk on top of each other like I just did to you.
Yeah,
And
you got to be ready to be able to pass things back and forth really, really quick. I'm waiting on one of you guys just jump in, and then I'm going to demonstrate how I.
No, we're going to let you hang.
No, I got you. So one way I kind of like to view the difference between a play-by-play caster and a color caster is the play-by-play caster is not per se the only personality, but more of a personality, and maybe not as much game knowledge, whereas the color caster, I think another common term for a color caster might be like an analyst. They have an extreme amount of game knowledge, like compared to a normal, I guess, player, or even the play-by-play caster. So that you look to them to give, like he said before, the how. Like so, like the play-by-play is the who and the what, and the color caster is the why and the how. So
excellent.
That's the way I like to view it.
So then not everybody has the luxury of having two casters. So if you have one caster, you're doing both. You're basically a hybrid. So how do you balance those?
I think that if you're the person doing the balancing, if you're the hybrid caster, you have to know the appropriate level of excitement and the appropriate level of technical speak, I guess you could say. So whereas like you said, you have two casters, one person can be all the personality and the other person can be all of the technical details. But if you're by yourself, you have to I think you have to tone both of them down. If you have both the personality and the technical knowledge, you can't just be all the time like, all right, everybody, so what we're going to do, and whenever you're just describing how they just took dragon or why they warded, somewhere, that will kind of get draining on people, I think. So like I said, you have to find the appropriate level. And I think that's the main part of hybrid casting for me.
I'm just picturing someone describing, like in Overwatch, the Pharah Mercy combo, and they're describing it as if a point is being taken. Like, and the reason they get in there, and they have to hold that shift button and fly up. Just, like, that would be painful to watch someone with that'd be too much energy.
Yeah, draining
too much
both,
energy. Yeah,
both the caster and the viewers. I mean. Honestly, if I see a video where all it is constantly like, "Hey everyone, let's do this," I'm just like, next video. I'm sure it's great, but let's move on.
And for most professional streams, you will see two casters. You will always see that play-by-play person and the color commentator. So whenever possible, develop that sort of relationship with another person. Figure out what you do best. You saw the trailer we did. When you saw me, I was definitely there as color commentator. I was talking about game design, how they made the game, that sort of thing, and then would leave the actual students who are competing for the scholarships to be the play-by-play person, because those are in great demand by anyone who's trying to do streams professionally right now. So
it's actually especially good for when you have two casters like that. We had an issue at that event that was in the video. behind the scenes, we were having difficulty talking to the casters. We had an audio issue. But what's really great when you have these big production setups, when you're using like high end professional software, big complicated setups, you can actually set up a microphone for the directors and whoever's controlling the spectator camera that you can isolate to each caster. Having two casters is great because when you got one caster talking, but you got a commercial coming up, you got something like that, you can key over and just kind of whisper in the other caster's ear and then play off of each other. And so these guys, not only they know everything about what's going on in the game, they know everything that's going behind the scenes. They know it's really good to have a host, essentially, a host that's keeping track of everything from the standpoint of production. It's really important to have that so you don't have to cut to someone else just to say things like, okay guys, we'll be right back, we're gonna go take care of this, whatever. You have that one presence on the screen. It's really nice from a production standpoint. And unfortunately, like I said, we had that audio issue at that event, but when you have two casters, you can actually as a director, you can actually play them off of one another too, just from the behind the scenes.
But that's
not
a great
quite puppetry, but
But that's a great point. Let's talk about all these different roles. So a shoutcaster really can only be as good as their team, and in many cases, you are the entire team. So what are those roles? So we talked about the live streaming in the last session. I actually pulled up the scene that I use for when I am live streaming my game, equivalent to shoutcasting for the game I have in development, Noble Armada Lost Worlds. And for those of you who are part of this and want to see how an OBS scene gets set up for game live streaming, here's an example. The very top one for me right now is the game capture itself. I will sometimes also have a webcam set up for this, so you'll see my face in the bottom corner of this as well. So I'd actually have that as the top one. If that were the case, you might have a stream jar set up for this. I don't have that set up for this feed right now. You might have your overlays on top. But you've got the game capture, which just is for, you'll look, it says capture. Whoa, I've got on capture any full screen application. I thought I had it specifically on the game itself. Interesting. All right, so in this case, it's capture any full screen application, so it's getting the game itself. Let's go back to OBS, please. There we go. Oh, here's the game. How do I have two of the game properties? That's interesting. I've got two game captures. All right, capture the Noble Armada. I must have been messing around with this recently. The main audio in. The lower thirds master, which should be up on top. Let's see. Interesting. Thought I did have these properly arranged, but apparently not. The HDMI live feed and a hidden one. But I'll also have a webcam version on this to show me. There might be another mic set up and so forth. So you can have this entire scene to transition over to when you're doing OBS. Obviously, I'm not actually streaming, but it shows how this all actually works. So you've got this set up. Someone has to actually run it. Someone has to be the technical person. It might just be you, or you might be lucky and have a CW in the background running it. If you're doing a big production, you've got a big esports event, you need a production manager, someone who's directing everything. One thing that we were fortunate to have at MomoCon were folks to actually direct the cameras. What do you call those people?
The camera operators, and we actually had two remote control cameras that we had a joystick back at our setup and cameras mounted up in the ceiling, PTZ cameras, pan tilt zoom. So we were able to actually get a lot of different shots between two camera operators and two remote cameras. We could pretty much get whatever we wanted to on that screen, which was really good because we had a shared stage. We had Brawlhalla, Smite, and Paladins all running on that stage. Whenever we were switching games, we didn't turn the live stream off. So we had to actually have the cameras kind of steer the attention over to another area, and having all those options really helped a lot. But that's a lot to coordinate. Two camera operators, all the remote cameras. We had a separate person actually running the spectator view, basically flying the camera around in the game, and that wasn't even controlled by that's something a lot of times the shoutcasters will control themselves, but on a larger scale production, you want to give them as much freedom to do their job as possible, and coordinating all of that. Yeah, that's a big job. That's a huge job. That takes a full crew.
And let's talk a little bit more about spectator view, because this is the part that a lot of people don't see. If you're just streaming your game, you're just streaming what you see in front of you. On the other hand, professional shoutcasters aren't actually directing any part of the game. They're only seeing what's being fed to them by whoever's overseeing the spectator camera. Either one of you want to talk about? Have you used spectator mode in anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've used spectator mode in League of Legends mostly. You gain control of the camera, but not whenever I've actually done any shoutcasting. Like I said, it's kind of leave it up to the production team, and you even see it in League of Legends, or if you look at some footage from the Momocon gel tournament, they're doing the one panning in spectator mode. They're directing. They're like, oh, this is a good thing to note out. For example, you might just in League of Legends sometimes part of the production team will take the camera and start going over all the ward placements so that the shoutcasters know, like, hey, you need to start talking about why they place these wards here and how it's effective or how it's ineffective. So it kind of not only, I guess, shows what's being done that you might not see. Like if you're watching someone play, do you really notice when they place a ward or something like that, or what items they buy, like in Overwatch or something? So sometimes the production team will do that. They'll start going over this information so the shoutcaster can let the player know, like, hey, they did this. This is why.
Yeah. And back behind at the table, it's like that shoutcaster. Like I said, if there's two shoutcasters and I can talk to, if one of them's talking and I can get in the ear over the headset with the other one, then I can tell the other one, hey, we're about to go over ward placements. Hey, we're about to do this, and kind of set them up for what's about to be on the screen so that they're ready to react to it. But the majority of the time, even on big productions, you're not trying to coordinate all that. You're letting them do their job, and as the director, you're talking to the one running the spectator camera. You're telling them, hey, we haven't done a shot showing this. Give them a shot of this. And the shoutcasters, part of their job is to be able to react to what's on the screen, to know what we're trying to get them to talk about when suddenly the spectator cameras just suddenly zoned in and focused on this one thing. A good shoutcaster already knows, without being told, what we're trying to get them to talk about, what they're supposed to be focusing on. And you really got to know the game for that. But yeah, when you've got a good team and you can actually rehearse and practice together, when you got a director, shoutcasters, and someone operating that spectator camera, and they're all used to one another, they understand how each other operates, that's when you start pulling out some really amazing productions where you even watching it yourself back, it's like, wow, how are these guys so coordinated? Everything's flowing so good. It's like it's scripted.
Well, let's jump into that. I mean, this flows directly into the next point. How do you develop those skills? We talked about all these different roles you can have. Shoutcaster is the most prominent face, but you need those camera operators, production managers, for someone overseeing spectator mode. So how do you actually develop these skills? Casey already talked about he uses spectate mode without actually having done it for shoutcasting. So talk about some of the ways you actually practice.
Oh, I guess a good example would be if I'm going to be shoutcasting a game that I might not actually have a crazy amount of knowledge on. First of all, that's probably a mistake. Just as an example, the first shoutcasting experience I ever got to do was, I think, the first gel tournament. They asked me to be a Brawlhalla caster, and I'd played Brawlhalla a few times, but I didn't have any in-depth knowledge. So I was very thankful when Andrew said to me, he said, all right, so a lot of the viewers might not have played Brawlhalla, so don't get too technical. Don't use any too crazy technical terms. And I was like, thank goodness, because I don't know any technical terms. And so I went over there, I'm ready. I'm saying, okay. I'm just sitting there like, okay. Oh, they bashed them, they picked up their weapon, they threw their weapon at them, they hit them. Oh, looks like they're guarding the side there. But the person who was shoutcasting with me, a very experienced shoutcaster, knew a lot about Brawlhalla. He played it all the time, he knew a lot of details, and he's saying like, oh, look at that 360 gravity cancel. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's great. So I think, honestly, a big part of preparation is, one, playing the game, because, I mean, you need to at least have some knowledge, but you should probably put a good amount of effort into learning the ins and outs of the games. Like, why would someone pick this, like in Brawlhalla, for example, why would someone pick this person? Why would they... What weapons do they use? And for those of you who don't know, Brawlhalla, a big mechanic is each player, you can pick up a weapon that's on the ground that looks normal when you pick it up, or when it's on the ground, but as soon as you pick it up, depending on what character you picked, it spawns a certain type of weapon. So, like, some characters, if you pick up the weapon, they get a lance. Another person, they get a spear. All depends on the character. So you need to know, like, why would they pick this? Especially for the gel tournaments where it's usually 2v2. So, you have two characters being chosen. So you have to think about how are they going to interact together. And so I won't go too detailed about Brawlhalla specifically, but just playing the game or watching other shoutcasters, people, they might naturally have a personality, but they don't naturally know how to I guess point out what's going on in a game. If you don't know what's going on, it's good to watch another shoutcaster. For example, like League of Legends, I'll go back to that example. Watching Dash and Freak, it's a lot of puns, that are really not very funny, but they have a lot of game knowledge, so they start pointing things out that you can use. And a lot of times people, whenever they're trying to practice shoutcasting, they're not going to shoutcast a live game. They're going to find something that's already happened, that's already maybe been uploaded to YouTube, that they can go back and they can actually, if you're watching a video and you're practicing your shoutcasting, you can start calling out a play-by-play, and you might think like, oh, I really feel like I didn't do great with that, and you can just go back and call the play over again. So I think using already aired matches or already aired games is a really effective way to improve your skills.
That's a great piece of advice. Yeah, do what's already been there, and that way later on you compare to what they did or even beforehand.
I would say one of the biggest things I would tell any caster is record yourself. And this is the same advice I'd give anyone who's doing public speaking and especially interviews. Before I got into live broadcast production, my area of expertise was those behind-the-scenes documentaries that you see on DVDs. They have their own camera crew that runs those documentaries, and that's what I did for a while. So I did a lot of interviews. And I got to tell you, it's pretty amazing because I was counting. I count in my head half the times because I know I'm going to have to edit it later if I was doing an interview. So I just kind of instinctively count. You only had 5 us that entire time. You had 5 us. Most of us we do they're called pause words. They give you a moment to think about like what you're going to say. And I can tell you right now, no matter who you are out there, you are not aware of how often you do that, and it's a lot more than you think it is. But for a shoutcaster, they've got to be able to, because this is all improvisational. This is not scripted. They're not watching this game ahead of time and writing. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that bot support right there. They've got to really be able to improvise on the fly, sometimes interrupting themselves because now something else is happening. They don't even get a chance to finish what they were explaining. They got to cut it short and talk about something else now. This is a lot of improvisational public speaking. And doing that without stumbling all over yourself is a talent, and it is a learned talent. And the worst part is, like I said, you're not aware of how often you do it. If you film yourself, and most of these games, if you go to Twitch or Mixer or even YouTube, you can find recordings, live broadcasts of all of these games. Most of them have commentators. Turn the sound off. Watch it. Record yourself commentating on it. Hey, if you really want to get into depth, watch something that was professionally broadcast with professional shoutcasters. Turn the audio off. Watch it, give your own shoutcast, and then compare it to what the professionals did. That's in depth, but the first thing I would say is record yourself and realize how much you stumble over yourself, and you just practice over and over again. Talk constantly.
And 99% of people will be embarrassed by their own voice when they hear it recorded. Don't be. Yes, our timbre of our voices sound different in our head than they sound outside of our head. That's just physical reality. We hear differently our own voice. But in any case, don't worry about it if you think your voice is not appropriate for that. In broadcast, some of the most successful sports broadcasters had the worst voices for it. There's one in the 70s, Howard Cosell, who was the most successful broadcaster of his era and had the most nasally, annoying voice. And people said they hated him, but tuned in nonstop and in huge numbers to see him cover everything. There is no such thing as a bad voice for shoutcasting or broadcast. What there are unpracticed voices. So what you have to work on, in addition to your skill set, is your enunciation, your ability to be clear when you're talking quickly, because these things happen very fast in games. You need to be able to react and talk very quickly, let people hear what you're saying, and understand what you're saying most importantly. So the more you practice your enunciation, your ability to speak in public, the better that will be. Every voice is appropriate for shoutcasting, but not every person is. So work on getting rid of the ums, understanding what's going on, and being clear when you're talking. Now, is there a personality for shoutcasting?
Honestly, I think maybe 70% yes, 30% no, if that makes sense. there's some people who they just have charisma, they have that personality, and so you think like, wow, that person should be like an announcer on TV or wrestling or something like that. But sometimes I think a perfect example is when I first started streaming is whenever I would log on, I didn't have, a very big following, maybe a couple of people at night. And there was just one time, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do as far as, a streamer. And so I was just playing and I was just relaxing. I was like, if someone came in, I was like, oh, hey man, how's it going? You doing okay? Not anything super dramatic, and at the end of the night, it was just the one guy. We were just talking. And he was like, hey, this is really chill, and also he was like, I was really drunk, so it was cool to just chill. I was kind of just, it was really cool to just sit. You were, kind of really chill, and I like that. I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna watch you some more. So, and sometimes that's the right fit. It depends on the game. A game like League of Legends, if you're just sitting here and like, oh man, that was really cool. Someone's gonna be like, do you even know what you're talking about? Why are you here? So there are certain games, giant games like Overwatch and League of Legends. You need something. You need someone with that flair for the dramatic. But a game that's even similar to League, but Smite, where you have someone like Bob, who he's not like, oh right, actually he kind of is like
Bob is always
I was trying to sound more energetic than he sounds, but really he just has the personality and the voice without being over dramatic or over the top. So I think it really it depends on what game you're playing.
I would say there's because you asked, like, is there a personality for Shoutcast, like that perfect personality? I say there's definitely not the perfect personality, because the guy who's like, oh my God, they're doing the rush, look at them go getting together, they got sport behind them, it's amazing. That guy can be just as entertaining and just as fun to watch as the guy who's like, oh, looks like they got a real big push coming up on the bottom end right now. The support is lining up behind them. It's perfect. Those two can be just as entertaining. Maybe not the same levels of energy, obviously. Frankly, I'd love to see those two on stage together, those two clones of me. But, so I wouldn't say that there's the shoutcasting personality at all. There's a range of shoutcasting personalities, and having, especially if you have two shoutcasters, having complementary personalities can be perfect. It can be a little bit jarring jumping between two people, but what they're even though there's not the perfect shoutcasting personality, there's definitely the bad personalities. There's several good, but there's some that there's no scenario for it. Like if no one is tuning in to the guy who's just like, yeah, they're pushing bot. Yeah, they're pushing the bottom lane. Yeah, they got the healers in the back. Oh God, these guys are dumb. Look, and they're so stupid.
Actually, I think people will watch that.
Yeah, there's some groups on Twitch that, oh my God, now I'm gonna have to test that theory, the hecklecaster. But hey, if they were an energetic, hecklecasting could work. But in general, positivity I'd say positivity over energy would be a bigger focus. Positive streamers in general tend to do better than negative streamers. Even YouTube, positive YouTubers tend to do better than negative YouTubers. People really feed off of that energy. And let's face it, if you sit there and you do something for an hour and you feel like crap afterwards, you're probably going to eventually identify and walk away. And there's no way you can watch something without feeding off the energy of it. So when you have positive people, regardless of even, chill is very positive. chill is not rage. And like even one of the most popular ragers on YouTube is Markiplier playing anything horror. But it's this weird positive rage. I don't know how, but it's positive rage.
Good rage.
So yeah, it's was that
your comment?
Yeah, Tyler won. Yeah.
Tyler won.
Yep, that guy.
So yeah, that's it's definitely a range of personalities that work, but there's a few things that you can't make that work. A few things to avoid, but a lot of things to try.
But I think one of the things you'll notice, if there are things to try, you will develop your personality. Who you are right now talking on a shoutcast, as you shoutcast, a personality will develop out of that. You come in with your own inherent personality, but shoutcasting will bring out whole new personalities out of you, because it's a whole different skill set than what you do in your day-to-day life. And there's a different level of excitement that's involved. So you will develop a personality, and you can judge from the feedback and from what you enjoy doing and how you feel when you're done, what personality actually works. I go back to Howard Cosell. by all accounts, had probably the worst personality, but incredibly successful at what he did. Let's jump to enthusiasm that you brought up. And I think that's a great tie into personality. What is enthusiasm? How do you get enthusiasm across? And I think this is one thing you did well with your shoutcasting.
Well, I guess the best way is going back to the example of if you're the shoutcaster for a big game like League of Legends or Overwatch, someone's watching, they might not understand that something important is happening. So even if you don't think it's all that exciting, if you're a shoutcaster, you need to insert that enthusiasm, so that way the people who are watching know. Like if two people or two teams are fighting over a dragon in League of Legends, and you're sitting there, you're like, looks like they're gonna get the track. Oh, and like they're right there in front of you. You need to let the viewer know. It's not, you know what's happening. So in your mind, you're like, oh, I've seen this a million times. It's not that exciting. But the viewers, they might not have ever seen two teams fight over a dragon in their entire life. So you need to insert the enthusiasm to let them know that this is a big deal. If Team A gets this Infernal Drake, that's going to give them a huge advantage over Team B.
I'm pulling this out of the way because I want people to keep seeing you doing those hand gestures.
Oh.
When we're talking about enthusiasm, just go do what you were saying before. Look at how he's acting through this. He has this personality that's coming across. You'll see, we're going to talk a little bit about presentation style, sitting straight, face up, where do you look, all that sort of thing. But those sort of hand gestures, being able to incorporate those naturally into the conversation and presentation are an excellent addition when there's not on-screen action going along behind you. We talk about talking heads, the two folks going, no, back and forth, but things like that are a great addition. What about you, CW? What do you think? How do you think enthusiasm comes across?
Well, first of all, I'm going to try that heckle casting. Pull that off. But it's actually, body language does play into it because, and it depends on the production. A lot of times you don't show the shoutcasters on the screen. Sometimes you do. It kind of depends on what's going on. For a full production, you're going to be jumping back and forth. You're gonna have moments where you're showing more of the casters because they're talking and there's a lull in the game or even a break between rounds. So you're going to go full screen on the casters or cut to shots of the teams and everything. It's actually why when we did that Momo kind of it, whenever we do a production, we actually make sure that the shoutcasters, the monitor they have, because shoutcasters, obviously, they have to see what's going on. They're going to have a monitor feed, usually from the spectator camera. And what we do is we don't give them a monitor feed of the spectator camera of the game. We give them a monitor feed of the stream. So they know when they're full screen, and you see yourself, suddenly you'll be a lot more animated. But as far as enthusiasm goes, like they were saying, if something exciting is happening in the game, but it's mundane to you, you do absolutely have to convey that excitement. But also, if you're not conveying excitement, if you're not having a good time, if you're not having fun, genuine fun, you can be a great actor and pull it off, but why bother? Just have fun. If you're not having fun doing it, you need to either switch games or maybe switch jobs, but you have to have fun doing it. It will pick up on people. And if you hang out with a bunch of your friends and you're all having a good time, it's really hard to not have a good time. And what we're trying to provide to the viewing audience, what we're trying to give them is entertainment, give them a good time. If your audience is having fun, if they walk away from that stream feeling good, in any sense of the word, they're going to come back. That's all you got to do is you got to make sure that, first of all, they don't leave unless they have to or unless you stop streaming. And when they do leave, they're walking away feeling good and they're going to come back. And from the product, I'm the behind the scenes guy. I have to think about those numbers. I'm thinking about audience retention. I'm thinking about, how this is going to affect our next stream. If I've got a shoutcaster and they're bumming me out just because they're tired. I'm having a production assistant rush them some coffee and a Red Bull. They're pulling Red Bull into the coffee maker because those guys got to get up. They got to get that energy level up. And it makes a huge difference. You are going to affect your audience. You're going to rub off on your audience. And that's important to recognize is that will happen.
we got those comments during the MomoCon stream of some of our casters just being too downbeat and slow. And you can't be constantly up, running. You do have to monitor your own peaks and valleys of excitement. Get the audience up, bring them back down. Get them up, bring them back down. And at the end of the game, that'll be the most exciting part, the final rushes and so forth. So that peak will be up there right before the end. But you do want to relax the audience again before the stream's all over. Oh, what a great match that was. Really good to see these activities, those activities, and so forth. Still up and hyped, but not at that top level of excitement. But do be aware of the flow of your excitement level during the stream.
Wait, so you're saying that they said that some people were they talking about me?
Oh, only. No. That's why we rushed you on stage. But you won the scholarship. I'm just saying. So
there were times
earned a scholarship.
There were times when I was in the headset with the stage manager saying, "Okay, I need someone else out there. I need someone else out there right now. We got to swap out."
So, but you brought up the great points of retention. So when we talk about your audience, the way the industry talks about that is in first, how do you attract that audience? How do you engage that audience? How do you retain that audience? And really, they also talk about how to make money off that audience. But let's go with those three. Actually, let's do all those factors.
If you do the first three right, the fourth one takes care of itself.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, assuming you got other things set up. Yeah.
So let's talk through all four of those points now. How do you attract an audience? How do you engage an audience? How do you retain an audience? And then how do you actually make this sustainable by getting some money coming in?
Attracting the audience, you got to ultimately get someone to click something. I mean, we're talking about the internet here. It's chances are someone is going to be introduced to the idea that you are streaming through a tweet, a Facebook post, some sort of social media. It's usually happening when it's live, unless we're talking about a major, like, multi-day semifinals, finals thing. People are not lined up waiting days in advance, unless we're, like I said, we're talking about like big national tournaments. I know I can't wait for the PUBG International. I'm going to be watching that. But there's a tournament going there. A tournament. Okay, there's 500 tournaments going on right now. They're being broadcast on Twitch and Mixer and maybe even Caffeine. I don't know. So that's all happening right now. I have no idea. This is one of the things I do for a living. I have no idea what's being broadcast right now. But if I jump on Twitter, I know my Twitter feed's blown up. I know those are out there. So it's going to be what grabs my attention, which thumbnail, which who's got really cool team logos up, and it's usually a matter of I'm going to click on several of them. And for a lot of people, when people are browsing on Twitch, if someone goes to Twitch and they know what they want to see, they're clicking following, they're seeing which streamers of theirs are currently streaming, and hey, maybe one of them is you, and they're going to click and see what you're doing. Ultimately, the people, if they're not going to a specific thing, they're going to be sampling. They're going to click on someone, they're going to watch for seconds. You have seconds to hook that audience. That's the first thing, is getting that first hook in. Because if they're bored in 5 seconds of watching a random Twitch stream, they're already moving on. They're already looking for another Twitch stream. And the great part about this is, this is the best part, you have no idea which 5 seconds someone's going to be watching. They've all got to be gold. Every single one of them has to have those hooks. So you try and, you keep what's going on screen entertaining. You keep that banter, that energy level, that positivity. You keep everything very engaging all the time. That's the big challenge, is any random 5 seconds of that broadcast has to be interesting enough to keep me from clicking that X button. That's the first and biggest and hardest part, is it's got to be consistent. You can't have drops. You can't have lulls. They can't happen. Otherwise, we're screaming into a microphone to get someone else on stage. It's just how it has to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
For like competitive games like Overwatch or League of Legends, whenever I watch a stream, they always have to be like a pro or somebody who's good at the game. So I feel like I'm not wasting my time.
Good point from the audience, that you want to see someone who's actually good at the game playing, or else the heckle caster needs to be in full effect.
Yeah. Most of the points that he brought up, I agree with. There are a few things that I kind of tend to have a slightly differing opinion. I think that the way to get a good following. So first of all, I think a lot of people are worried, if in the first week they haven't gotten 200 followers. It's not going to happen right away. And honestly, you should really take advantage and enjoy the time before you do get successful, because all it can do is actually help you. So, like for example, I first started out, I would get 1 or 2 viewers, or sometimes even none. Maybe. But whenever I did get those 1 or 2 viewers, I was able to practice. Like they were saying earlier, your personality doesn't form overnight. You start out with your regular self, and then your stream or your shoutcasting personality forms over time. And so whenever you have, those 2 to 5 viewers is the perfect time to practice. Exactly like CW said, be engaging. There's 2 or 3 people. It's a lot easier to be engaging with them than with 500. So use that time to kind of fine tune things, try some things out. But the one thing that I maybe don't 100% agree with, maybe 50-50 on, is that whenever you're streaming, you have to be entertaining, sure, but you don't always have to be, completely 100% engaging, I don't think. So what I mean by that is some people think that you need a gimmick. You have to be really loud. You have to be really insulting, like take Tyler 1, for example. But in reality, it's so draining to be a very fake version of yourself. So what my approach to it, at least, which is not the only approach, is I just try to be myself, maybe a louder, more, I maybe alter my voice a little bit, without the cracking. But I just try and be myself, or very slightly different, to kind of more a TV personality thing, but not anything crazy, because people are going to know if you're faking all the time. Like you said, you could be a great actor, but you can only do so much. So I think if you're yourself, and the people who follow you, they're going to appreciate that. You're the type of person they want to see. Some people want to see someone like Tyler 1 just yelling insults, or Markiplier, just doing all kinds of crazy things. But in my experience, you see people like Tyler 1 with 100,000 viewers, or Ninja, I think, who does Fortnite, 100,000 viewers or more. But what you don't really see is, you see that there's a lot of people there watching, but they're not interacting. They're maybe throwing insults to other members of the chat, but they're not really. Spam. Yeah, they're not really talking. They're not really talking with the streamer or anything like that. Whereas for me, like my favorite streamer of pretty much on any platform is this guy named Hybrid Panda. He's got 1,500 followers almost. So nowhere near, or he's got 1,500 subscribers, nowhere near the 100,000 or something that you see someone like Tyler 1 or Markiplier. But he's consistent. He's got a personality. He doesn't change himself. He makes fun of himself, or he makes fun of the people he's playing. He plays a game called Dead by Daylight right now, but he doesn't try and go over the top. He just is himself, and that's what makes me come and watch him. I subscribe every month. He's got steady 1,500, and those 1,500 people, they're all donating bits or donating money, and I think that part of I guess keeping a following once you get it is by being that steady personality. Obviously you can try out new things. You could kind of have like a day where you're like, what, today I'm gonna be really loud and obnoxious. I'm gonna wear a funny hat, but it's not something like you should be changing it up every single stream. A lot of people who are watching streams or shoutcasting, they like consistency. So with that consistency thing, aside from just your personality, another way to make sure that you're retaining your following is, if I get a following of 1,000 people, but I'm like, 1 week I'm saying, all right, I'm going to stream Monday at 9 p.m. And then next Monday I don't stream, Thursday night I just decide to hop on, I'm like, oh, it's 10 p.m. I'm not going to tell anyone. Then who's going to know that I'm on? Yeah, sure, they might be following me, but they might be out doing something. So if you have a set schedule, you stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. That's just an example time. People know when you're going to be on. If they become your following, they'll go out of their way to make sure that they don't have anything going on during that time if they can help it, and that's how you get consistent viewers. Yeah,
that's exactly. And I actually agree 100% with what you were saying, because you're talking more the individual streamer especially. It's definitely with the audience, when someone clicks on a stream, there's different levels of expectation. For instance, I play a game called Kerbal Space Program that I stream pretty often just as myself, and I don't consider myself like I am a streamer, but that's not what I'm trying to be. Like I prefer directing, I prefer producing, I prefer helping other streamers and being behind the scenes for I mean obvious reasons. It's for everyone's sake. But so for a game like that, if someone clicks on Kerbal Space Program, yeah, that thing about 5 seconds, it does not apply there. They click on Kerbal Space Program to see me, they're going to give me more time because they know that game. That is a fairly slow-paced game. There's a lot of building involved, a lot of planning. But like as far as the 5 second thing, that's more along the lines of when you have the big productions. If you clicked on Blizzard's coverage of like a massive Hearthstone tournament and things were slow, yeah, that's going to be almost shocking. It's going to be like, okay, what's going on? Like if 10 seconds pass and no one's saying anything, it's just kind of showing a screen of gameplay and a guy's just kind of sitting there looking at the cards. If that happened for 10 seconds, I would be checking my internet connection because I assume something happened and I'm looking at a still frame. I don't know. Or someone's mic got turned off. There's obviously a technical issue happening. So it's definitely a different level of expectation. And it's one of the nice things when you are a smaller streamer. Someone pops in and they see that you've got 10 viewers, there is a lot. It's not a lower expectation, it's a different expectation. There is, and definitely the engagement. They expect that engagement. Now, when you're doing a huge production, if you got 100,000 people watching, you can't say, hey guys, tell us in the chat, what do you think of this? Type 3 sentences each, because you're not going to see any of them. You got people, maybe they could tweet a hashtag, and then you could have a social media manager popping them up on the screen. That's another person sitting in the back in the production table next to me, and I've done that. It's actually pretty cool.
We didn't even talk about our hashtag for this event. What is our hashtag today? Hashtag at Decab Entertainment. All right. Well, let's. I think we got about 5 more minutes, so let's jump into that actual monetizing part of it. How do you actually make some money at this? Either of you want to jump on it?
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of people think, like we were talking about before, that you have to have those large numbers of people to start making money. You have to have those thousands of followers or something like that to start making money. But what in reality, take Twitch for example, in order to get access to their official subscribe button, and you can also even just put your own ones that link to a PayPal, but that's your preference. But just for Twitch to become what's called Twitch affiliate, all you have to do is have an average of 3 viewers per stream and have 50 people following you. I mean, you could probably, beg 2 or 3 of your friends to, it's like, hey, just tune in, like once a week, for, 20 minutes or something. You can go away from your computer. Here's $5. Go get yourself McDonald's or something.
Make sure they leave the sound on. If they mute you, it doesn't count as a viewer anymore. I learned that trick.
So, and then you could just, it could be something as simple as, random, I don't know, Twitch accounts from Russia following you. You see, like I said, 3 average viewers per stream and 50 followers, and you can become a Twitch affiliate, which gives you access to that subscribe button. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, that having a large, I guess, audience of $100,000 isn't as good from a monetization standpoint as having 1,500 concurrent or dedicated followers. If you have those dedicated followers or people who are watching your stream, like I said, they're going to donate bits, they're going to subscribe. So I think a subscription, depending on which tier you get, it could be either $4.99 or $9.99 on Twitch. And then you take someone like Tyler One. I have seen people donate bits or donate money, but it's few and far between, especially considering that he has over 100,000 viewers. And then you take a channel like Riot Games or the Overwatch League, whenever they're doing, I've never, ever seen anyone donate any bits. They might not have the capability for all I know, but they have a Twitch account. I don't see a lot of subscribers. I see a lot of followers. I see, over 100,000 people tuning into that. But whenever you ever seen anyone donate them money or anything like that? Whereas you look at the viewers with 500 to 1,500 or maybe 2,000, it seems like every couple of minutes someone else is subscribed, someone else has donated bits, someone else has just donated money, and so I think that having the dedicated fan base is a lot more important than getting like a large number of viewers, and then it's easier than you think.
We do workshops at our studio. So a quick plug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
we have the Level Up Creator Space. It's in Atlanta, just outside downtown Atlanta. So we actually have that space open to live streamers and YouTubers. And one of the things that we've been doing is hosting workshops, having people come in. And actually, I'm about to start doing online workshops where I stream 4 hours a day, guaranteed 4 hours a day for Kieran. What are we at? 6 months?
Almost.
Yeah, for 6 months I've streamed 4 hours a day, minimum, and I'll get to that minimum in just a second because I've got a really cool thing to talk about as far as monetization is bits, subscriptions, donations. Those are your first three most obvious, at least. Maybe not the best, but the most obvious forms of monetization is people who are entertained, who are contributing in a way that is built into Twitch. Not the donations, but when you integrate like Streamlabs, every Twitch viewer knows what Streamlabs is. They all know what that button is. It's a trusted site. People have no issue donating through that. But when you have integrated system like Bits, of course, that's going to be a very easy way for the people who support you. But it's the people who support you. It's the people who are tuning in every time. One of the first things I say, either in a workshop or even if I just see someone in a Facebook group, they go into a Facebook group that's supposed to be a support group for streamers helping streamers, and they pop in there and like, hey guys, follow for follow. It's like, why? What's follow for follow? Hey, I'll make 5 million dummy accounts follow you with every one, and that'll hurt your channel more than anything. Because now even Twitch's analytics are mirroring YouTube's analytics systems, where if you have 5 million viewers, or I'm sorry, 5 million followers, and no one watches your channel, they actually assume that you're putting out bad content, that you got followers somehow, but you're putting out horrible content. So they will avoid putting you on the main page. They will avoid search rankings. YouTube is very, I almost said very bad about that, but quite frankly, very good about that. This is a good thing. It puts good content regardless of your audience size. Someone who has 50 subscribers on YouTube that does a video that gets 5 million views, they're doing something right. They're going to be in the search rankings above the guy with 5 million subscribers who gets 50 views, and that's the way it should be. So it is very much, it's a numbers game, but the numbers that everyone focuses on is how many followers do I have, and that is the least important number ever. It's a cool milestone to celebrate, but honestly, I stopped keeping track of I got like 3,400 something follows or 3,200. I don't know. I can't even narrow it down to the nearest 100. But I can tell you right now, I've got 22 subscribers right now, and that's on our little promotional channel that we do for the studio. We have 22 subscribers. I know that number off the top of my head, and I know that when I go back to the studio tonight and stream, I'm going to expect 12 viewers. I know that number off the top of my head because those are your important numbers. And of those 12 viewers, 5 of them are going to be lurkers. I know that number off the top of my head. Those are the numbers I pay attention to. How many people are active in my chat? Because when it comes to monetization, the follow for follow guy is not giving you bits. And even on YouTube, even if you post a video on YouTube, subscribe for subscribe, yeah, they're not watching your videos. They are not earning you anything. They're not helping you in any way. And you're not helping them. You're hurting each other. So, but the really nice thing is, in addition to bits, donations, subscriptions, which is something your core audience, your most engaged audience is always going to help you out with whenever they can, you have things like merch sales, for instance. T-shirts. Your biggest fans are going to want your T-shirt. They're going to want your hat. They're going to want whatever you've got. And aside from merch, you've got other sources. There's a lot of things that are being implemented very, very, very recently. In Twitch, there are bit-operated arcade games in the panels below your stream. And bit-operated, this was an interesting one I found, a soundboard. So, hey, for 100 bits, you can play a fart sound. I know it's juvenile, but it works. And, the developer of that app gets like 20 of the bits, you get 80 of them. But, maybe that person would not have given those 100 bits if they couldn't make a fart sound while you were sneaking up on someone in a video game and mess things up for you. Maybe not. And that's the kind of stuff that you see that stuff being implemented, and it's just all these different channels of monetization, including sponsorships.
Sponsorship.
Yes.
Keys. Do we have a question from chat?
No, I had a question.
Go for it. All right. And there's Patreon as well,
Oh, yes.
which we're using
Yes.
at this point. We're for extra content, extra things. People give you regular money, which is great. Just a regular revenue
Yeah,
stream.
It's so much better than like if you're trying to do something big, you do a Kickstarter. Sure, that makes sense. But Patreon, it's subscription based. Someone who supports you on Patreon, that's like a Kickstarter that restarts every month automatically.
Exactly
It's
right.
absolutely amazing.
And I think Twitch kind of does something I'm not sure if Mixer does it or not, actually. I know YouTube doesn't. But something they do that I think is really great that kind of fosters streamer on streamer friendships is that the fact that you can host other people's streams. For example, the guy that I said that I really love, his name's Hybrid Panda. Whenever he's done, he doesn't just completely shut everything off. He has a lot of viewers who are trying to get their own stream channels going or their own Twitch channels going. So he'll host someone, or then you see someone who's like a mega streamer who has over hundreds of thousands of viewers all the time, and they'll go and look for someone who has like the lowest amount of viewers, and they'll just host it. And then you see the new up and coming streamer has a notification, so and so just hosted you with 90,000 viewers, and they're like, don't even know what to do with themselves. And that could lead, they might actually end up liking, you, whoever hosts you, their viewers might like you, and you might get a few subscribers or a few new, devout followers from it.
And you can do this if you have your Twitch channel. You can host anyone as well. The GGDA, we host about a dozen local streamers, including that one right there, on our on our Twitch channel. So find streams that you like and host them on yours. And a great way for you also to pick up some viewers. People tune in to see what you're doing, and you're showing something that you think is good. If your followers trust you, then
even if you've got one viewer, don't just click stop stream. Host on. We had is that Harblo? I think I'm not sure how to say the name, but one of the top Overwatch streamers who's a very late night streamer. We were doing a late night stream that was a charity stream where we added time to our clock. That's why I said we did a minimum of 4 hours for a while. We were adding time to the clock based on donations. And I love telling this story. Some people do marathons like 12 hours or 16 hours, do a big marathon stream. And this was to fundraise for our studio. And our record was 23 days of nonstop streaming. But during that, he rated us with so many viewers, we almost made partner off of the average viewership over 30 days. And on top of that, as soon as they rated us, they saw what we were doing, and they dropped $50, which meant 10 more hours on the clock. That was the actual guy who rated us gave $50, and then a lot of his followers donated and subscribed. And it was amazing. We were the number one Overwatch streamer for 3.5 hours one morning.
Excellent.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, all skill.
All right, well, we're out of time. Any last questions? Yes, question.
What is the single biggest mistake that you see new shoutcasters make?
What is the single biggest mistake you see new shoutcasters make?
I think, not knowing how to kind of control those O's and ums. But for me, like I actually touched on earlier, thinking that they need a gimmick. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you don't need a gimmick. And a lot of times, whenever people tune in that one time for the gimmick, they're like, okay, that was really funny for one time. I don't ever want to see it again.
Say not being prepared. Especially if they're a new shoutcaster, chances are they're not doing a big tournament. They're shoutcasting for themselves. They're at home, and there's nothing worse than being like, oh wait, he's going. Hang on, hold on. Hang on, guys. Let me tab out and figure this out real quick. That kills it. You can record locally instead of streaming and work out all the bugs in your system and know what you're doing before you go live. And a lot of people will just skip that step.
And I will say the biggest mistake they make is when they do not stream Noble Armada Lost Worlds, even though it's not out yet.
Oh, that was a given. There's other games to shoutcast.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah, what does the job market look like?
What is the job market for shoutcasters? So one of the reasons why the Georgia Game Developers Association, actually the reason why the Georgia Game Developers Association has gotten into esports is because our members, who are game development studios, Hi-Res, Blue Mammoth, not Cartoon Network, but the rest of them, is that they're hiring more and more out of their esports community. And what we see in the esports community is everybody right now is filling all these different roles. They're players, they're community managers, they're shoutcasters, they're team managers, they're coaches. We're going to talk about more of these roles in our next session on how to develop your esports team. But the companies, the game development studios, are very interested in that community for their hiring. And they are interested in a mix of skills. Obviously, if you're a good shoutcaster, they're interested in bringing you in. All of them are growing their shoutcaster core right now. Now, that's not a huge number. You're talking about the highest levels right there when you are working for one of the studios, one of the development studios directly. But they're looking at all these areas. So if you're a shoutcaster, you might not be hired as a shoutcaster, but they might be looking for you because you can also handle community management. You can work on their stream when they need an extra body on the stream. You know the game well enough that you can also do quality assurance. You might even end up on the development side. So they've got all these different roles that you can fill. You're not coming in directly as a shoutcaster, but it is something you can work on into. What we see right now is that most people who are making money as shoutcasters are doing it for themselves. They have their own channels, and it is not yet a quit your day job for more than the elite, what do we say, 10%, 5%, 1%?
Or are we counting the lowest 10%?
Well, those who are making money.
Yeah,
those who
yeah.
are pulling in revenue.
If we're ignoring that, I'd say almost 20% if we're talking about
Can
serious,
make it a full-time job.
Serious people who are trying, who are genuinely trying. Not counting every streamer out there, but... Yeah.
So yeah, there is a place for you to make your own streams right now. That's what I love about this right now. Broadcast TV, you can't start your own broadcast TV at all with anything other than a huge 7-figure investment. Now you can do that with this computer right here.
That's actually what I was going to say. Is like the NFL. You know, you're not going to broadcast the NFL. NBC is going to literally kick in your door. That's not going to happen. But just like we've seen in the film industry, it used to be that you want to be a movie star, you want to be a director, you want to earn a living doing this. Well, you better get in with one of the big studios, or you're not going to make a living. That's not true anymore. There are people that make a very solid living in independent film because of things like YouTube or web series, things like that. These are not people scraping by eating ramen noodles. These are people getting millions in funding. Microsoft funded season 2 of The Guild for, I think, $2 million. And that was a while ago. Things have grown since then. And the same thing does work with esports. If you're a good shoutcaster, sure, Hi-Res might call you up, and there might be an event that Georgia Esports League is doing. They need a really good shoutcaster, and they're offering you money for it. That's great, but that does not have to be the only route. And for most people, that's not going to be the main route. The main route would be like we're in an esports arena right now. This place is set up. I could bring in cameras here and do a tournament here. We're trying to open up a bigger studio space than the one we have and do events there. And for those events, there's money involved. It's like the independent side of streaming and stuff. It doesn't have to be a big studio. All it has to be is sponsored well enough to offer a prize. You offer a prize, teams are going to show up. Teams show up, audience is going to show up. As long as you're putting on a good production, people are going to get paid. It's a job. You're working hard. You deserve to get paid, and you're going to get paid. It's going to be something you can make money off of. So I would say the biggest thing about the industry is that it's growing exponentially. The audience is huge. The audience can support 50 major tournaments every weekend, no problem. And that's a lot of people doing a lot of work out there that could be getting paid for it.
And beyond this, it goes beyond games dramatically. It's expanding beyond games in a huge way. All the more traditional media and other companies are becoming aware of this space. I am subscribed on Twitch to the Washington Post channel. And you're going to see more and more of these showing up, and they need people who have the skills of a shoutcaster. Traditional broadcast doesn't have a role here because they're not used to interacting with their audience on the fly and in real time. And that disconcerts a lot of them. On the other hand, folks who've been shoutcasting know how to involve that audience, which is exactly what the Washington Post audience on Twitch wants. They want to be involved in the story. And we see this now with training happening online. Some of the most popular online streams, gaming obviously is number one still, but art streams, people reading books online has become a popular area. Music teaching online is become popular. All of these areas, those are the shoutcaster skills which really translate across.
You forgot, it doesn't really involve shoutcasting, but you forgot one key, very popular streaming core group, and that's
Trolls.
No,
Okay.
well that is important, but there is some extremely successful streamers who I see it mostly out of Korea, but people who do nothing but sit there and eat.
There you go.
Social eating, ASMR, yeah.
There's a specific term for it. I'm blanking on it, but it's a
Somebody get him some Cheetos.
Yeah, but it's usually really skinny people eating about 5 burgers.
All right, well, thank you all very much. We'll be hanging out. The next session will be on how to form an esports team. So thank you all very much for joining us. Check out VS Realms. Great opportunity to game here. And we'll see you at Siege in October. Our next GGDA meeting, August 14th. What have you got coming up?
We got a YouTube meetup on the 15th, I believe, and working on a workshop schedule starting in 2 weeks for live streaming setups.
Anything exciting out of KSU?
For KSU, a nap.
Okay, and naps. All right, so we'll see you all back here in 30 minutes. Great.
That's all I got. They're gonna go get noodles. I think it's kind of expensive, but it'll probably be enough for us to share.
Yeah, that's when I was first drawing mail about it. We can't do it. We can't find anything. We can't get a big enough venue, and we don't want to charge money. It's honestly why I didn't go in for a while. Was it seemed like he had a very specific idea for it, and I specifically wanted to be there because it was when we were first coming up with the idea of, hey, why don't we focus on something on the screen? Focus on this and it's almost like this weird, like, other socialist thing of, hey, why don't we all share equipment and, and do things be better? But I agree with that, especially since when you actually look at the prices of everything involved in how little streaming actually streaming to start to it's one of those things. You got a mixed reality VR set that's $1,500. We have no sponsor take care of it for us. But the reason they take care of it is because they know we're going to have 5 cameras. Some of the most expensive live streaming software out there is vMix. vMix does not do sponsorships. They don't care who you are. They don't give you a copy of that software.
Yeah.
You go to them and ask them, they'll tell you they don't do sponsorships. I have a copy of that software.
Different
They
sponsors
don't.
pay for it.
They don't. No.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. They officially do not do sponsorships. They saw what we were doing, and they were like, you know what? You can use it. It's not yours.